When the uninitiated, i.e. the average person, thinks of a metalhead, mental images of people worshipping Satan and Ozzy Osbourne eating the head off a bat on stage usually come to mind. But metalheads like myself aren't the angry ruffians that we're made out to be, and a recent study by the University of Queensland has vindicated myself and all of my fellow headbangers at last. All I have to say to that is Slayer! Let's go ahead and dive right into the study. I'm Eric Malachite, metalhead for life, and this is Science Get. For decades, media outlets and parents' rights groups have made the claim that listening to death metal or punk leads to the worshipping of Satan and doing blow out of the butt cracks of hookers.
Good evening. They'll be rocking and rolling in Jackson a week from Saturday.
They'll be doing it to the beat of a different drum, heavy metal music. The rock show Mission Death Fest 1 is being staged at the Jackson Optimus Sports Arena. It was originally supposed to happen in Detroit. The switch has some people in Jackson concerned the groups promote satanic worship.
What can city commissioners do when a death fest comes to town? Not much, it seems. Despite receiving some calls from people calling the festival a devil-worshipping event, commissioners say the promoters have done everything by the book. That doesn't mean they have to like it.
I'm totally against it.
It should really be no surprise that these people have always been full of shit. Although those original black metal bands were absolutely nuts, no one can deny that. Through the 1980s and 1990s, community groups led by outraged evangelicals and parents levied lofty claims that satanic cults were using metal, punk, Dungeons and Dragons, and every other kind of secular form of entertainment you can imagine to seduce the youth of the nation into drug use, promiscuity, and even human sacrifice.
A heroin addict needs his fix. I needed to rock.
But as a drug addict has to come down from a chemical high, so Kevin had to face the fact that heavy metal, too, was a false high.
And the news, looking for a means to bolster ratings increasingly more threatened by the ever-growing popularity of cable television, ate it up without a fact-checker in sight. I want my MTV. Though it might surprise you to learn that the Satanic Panic might actually have had its origins in Canada. Experts typically point to a Canadian novel called Michelle Remembers as the ignition switch that started the whole thing. Canadian psychiatrist Lawrence Pasder wrote the book based off of interviews from one of his patients, Michelle Smith. The claim was made that during these sessions, Michelle remembered, because it's the title of the book, you see, some volatile, repressed memories involving everything that you might associate with a satanic cult. Weird induction rituals, blood sacrifice, all that wonderful stuff. The book was basically the blueprint for allegations that would be made throughout the Satanic Panic period. Often, when children were interviewed after an incident, they would make lofty claims of ritual sacrifice, cannibalism, underground tunnels, and more that I probably can't mention on YouTube. We all know the fear that permeated the Satanic Panic was fake. Well, most of us do anyway.
I needed to rock.
And while extreme music is far less demonized than it was in the 80s and 90s, there is still a stigma attached to people like myself. The stereotype is that people who listen to metal and punk are generally angry. Well, a new study suggests that the truth is actually quite the opposite. Stress is a serious problem in today's world. The gig economy pretty much ensures that you'll be working till you keel over from exhaustion. In scientific terms, the effects of stress can cause numerous health problems, including high blood pressure, heart problems, headaches, skin conditions, asthma, depression, anxiety, and even diabetes. Apparently, it's gotten so bad that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration Organization, otherwise known as OSHA, has determined that stress is actually a hazard in the modern work environment. So listen to metal, kids. There's even a monetary cost attributed to all this stress. $300 billion a year, in fact. Chronic, untreated stress is thought to be responsible for emotional disorders in more than 50% of the American population. While the media loved, and in some cases loves as in present tense, to equate listening to metal with increased levels of anger, there hasn't been a single study that substantiates that lofty claim. Not one!
A heroin addict needs his fix. I needed to rock.
There have been numerous studies that suggest that a person's preferred music can have a profound effect on their mood. It was suggested by a study dating back to 2007 that listeners of sad music found that their mood often improved after listening. In 2015, a study suggested that some musical genres allowed people ages 15 to 25 years old to fully immerse in their moods. And music has been tied to making some listeners angry, but these studies did not allow participants to choose their own music. So it's not really clear if the subjects are angry because the music they're listening to is actively making them angry, or because they're being forced to listen to something they don't like in the first place. Make me listen to country and you can guarantee I'll be more than a little irritated.
I needed to rock.
That is not the case with this new study. In the study published by the University of Queensland, which is available to read for free on frontiersin.org, linked in the description, the researchers involved studied 39 subjects ages 18 to 34, after being subjected to what the paper describes as an anger induction. This period of anger induction involved participants being asked to participate in a 16-minute long anger interview. The interview would start with participants describing either a single event or multiple events that led to them feeling angry. Additionally, each participant was given a list of topics that would help them bring those negative emotions to the surface. But the real fun didn't start until the participants were then directed to listen to extreme music of their choice.
I needed to rock.
Because, you know, they were listening to metal, and that's always a good time, especially when it's classic in flames. After anger induction, participants in the study were randomly directed to listen to their music of choice, or to participate in the control condition, which probably means they sat in silence for a while, stewing in their emotions. The researchers conducting the study asked each participant not to smoke or drink caffeinated or alcoholic beverages for 3 hours before the start of the beginning of the study. Each of the 39 participants' heart rates were monitored and recorded with electrodes. The participants who went on to listen to their music were asked to select some songs and, well, listen to them. This part of the study lasted a total of 10 minutes, so the average length of a Dream Theater song. After this, they were asked to sit quietly for an additional 10-minute period. And after this, every participant was then asked to complete a questionnaire known as PANAS. PANAS stands for Positive and Negative Effects Schedule. The test involves asking participants to rate their emotional state, rating 10 different emotional words on a Likert scale. A rating of 1 indicated that an emotionally descriptive word wasn't applicable to their current mood, and a 5 would indicate that it was extremely applicable to their mood. 5 of the 10 words were positive emotional states, including enthusiastic or inspired, and others were negative, like hostile, guilty, or irritable. I wonder if pissed off was one of the words.
I needed to rock.
Participants were then directed to participate in a structured interview detailing the effect the music had on their emotional state. Following that interview, participants were then debriefed, marking the end of the experiment at the 50-minute mark. The results of the experiment seemed to indicate that symptoms of anxiety, stress, and depression were pretty much in the normal range, with no real difference expressed between participants. The majority of the subjects involved reported that they listened to extreme music in order to fully experience their negative emotions, and also reported that this calmed them down. Subjects also reported using extreme music to help improve a depressed mood. Anxiety was an outlier in the study, as only about 33% of participants reported using extreme music to calm that particular emotion. Overall, an overwhelming majority of the 39 subjects involved with the study claimed that extreme music helped to enhance feelings of well-being and happiness. So, you know, score 1 for us metalheads. It's about time. There was a 40th participant in the study, but apparently their data was totally unusable. This is a totally random guess, but I wonder if they got loaded on Jack Daniels before showing up, expecting to find a mosh pit.
I needed to rock.
It should probably be no surprise to you all that this study hits pretty close to home for me. I've been listening to metal since I could coherently form words, starting with mandatory Metallica on 96.7 KCal Rocks back in the early 90s. My home life growing up was not the greatest, an understatement for those that know me well, and metal was hugely therapeutic to me growing up. Even into my mid-30s, damn it, I'm getting old, I still feel the urge to headbang anytime I throw on Machine Head, In Flames, Gojira, Trivium, and Bellacore to name a few, which is funny, since a lot of older people would scoff at my musical taste growing up, making the claim that my taste would soften as I grew older. Well, What do you think now, boomers? I've known for years that listening helped me to manage my moods, and I've always told people that claimed that people like me were angry that metalheads are some of the nicest people you can meet. But reading this study was more than a little cathartic. Something about having the subject treated scientifically just makes me really happy. That's all I've got for you this time, but be sure to come back next Tuesday for another full episode of Science Guy. We've officially crossed the 100th episode mark, so be sure to do all that algorithmic jazz and share this with someone who loves science and metal. This episode was something of a celebration, and it features some new tracks from Cthulhu Dreamt, a band that Reed Reamer, the guy who does Science Gets Music, leads. Reed is absolutely awesome, and you should check him out via the link I've placed in the description and comments. You will not regret it. And hey, if you dig studies like this, check out this video on focus. Hint, the Pomodoro technique is an awesome method for getting done. Wow, look at all those wonderful names. Thank you, patrons. I'm Eric Malachite, and you know what time it is. Slayer!